I have to be guided by my client, frankly. I'm a lawyer. It's his privilege, not mine. If he decides that he wants me to testify, of course I'll testify, even though I think Adam Schiff is an illegitimate chairman. He has already prejudged the case. If we want fairness here, we've got to put somebody in charge of that committee who has an open mind, not someone who wants to hang the president.
The president's personal attorney, of course, Rudy Giuliani, this morning on whether he would cooperate with the House Intelligence Committee as part of its impeachment inquiry. At the center of that investigation is a whistleblower complaint in which Giuliani is named 31 times. Some of Giuliani's former DOJ colleagues told NBC News they believe his conduct likely broke the law. And one of those colleagues, former federal prosecutor John Flannery, is joining me right now. John, with a welcome to you. Look, you know Rudy Giuliani. In fact, you used to work right alongside him. What was your reaction to everything you saw this week?
Well, it's been a long time coming, the levels of disappointment with Rudy. You know, when I first knew him, I thought he was the kind of fellow we'd find on the Supreme Court. That was in his Bobby Kennedy days before he went to Washington. And now I see a guy that, you know, should be arrested for impersonating a criminal defense lawyer if that tape you played is any indication of how he sees himself as a defense lawyer. And none of what he's talking about is privilege because he's involved third parties. So I'm sorely disappointed because it appears he's committing violations against the security, national security of this nation while pretending to be a hero. It's quite daunting, to say the least.
So let's take a look at some of what he said as he was making the rounds on the TV circuit this week. Take a listen to this.
You bet.
Did the president threaten to cut off aid to the Ukraine?
No, that was a false story.
100%.
Well, I can't tell you if it's 100%.
Because
just so you know, Chris Hahn said that you haven't practiced law since the 1980s.
Yeah, well, then I've been doing it illegally.
Did you read the transcript?
Let's say it was read to me.
It was read to you, the whole thing?
I hope.
So the president did bring up Joe Biden on the call?
Maybe he didn't bring it up. Could be possible the president of Ukraine brought it up.
So if he brought it up first...
What are Democrats going to be?
Is your relationship with Pompeo good?
Mike, if you're unhappy with me, I'm sorry, but I accomplished my mission. You actually usually say incredibly stupid things.
So then you know the libel law.
Shut up, moron. Shut up.
Okay.
John, can you make out a method to what he is doing there, or do you think he's digging himself into a hole? I mean, what's behind this behavior?
Well, it sounds like desperation, you know, and it's a word salad of accusations that he throws out at people. And he's also factually incorrect repeatedly. You know, for instance, he says that he had read to him what the transcript was. Well, one of the points of the transcript says, we have Zelensky saying we are almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes. And what they're talking about is being defended against Russia, given the invasion that they had into Crimea. And the javelins are a certain missile that would protect them against the tanks and military cruisers that cost them 13,000 dead and something like 30,000 injured. So this was really important when the White House was withholding $391 million from Ukraine, which they would use to then buy these javelins. And in the next sentence, after that statement by the president, Mr. Trump says, "I would like you to do us a favor, though." So that's the very next thing he says after the head of Ukraine says, "We need these javelins." And he's saying, well, you know, I got a problem here. And what is the problem? The problem is I want you to investigate Biden and his family. And if you do that, then you'll get the funds and you'll get the javelins. Now, the Senate got upset, and by September, they had forced the funds to be released. But until that time, it was being withheld. And the president of Ukraine told the U.S. senator, in fact, that those funds were being withheld because they wanted him to conduct an investigation favorable to the purposes of the president.
So that was told, President Zelensky, that was his interpretation of this phone call. That's what he told the senator. But you saw perhaps that press conference when he was sitting next to President Trump after the White House visit, and he said, no, you know, everything was fine. We didn't feel pressure.
Yes, well, if I coerce you to do something, putting your nation at risk, and I tell you that I'm going to give you the support that you need while I'm president and appear to do anything I want, uncontrolled by the House, the Senate, by prosecutors or anyone, what do you do for your nation? So I do not credit what he said. He was pressured. We have the evidence in the same memo that Rudy says, well, it may have said this and it may have said that. It says what I just said, what I just read to you.
Yeah, no, you actually just read it verbatim there.
Right.
Do you think Rudy Giuliani's in legal jeopardy? It's my last question to you.
Absolutely. We have a combination of bribery. We have the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act at risk here because we're paying a favor, withholding funds, and expecting a condition precedent that favors the president personally before those funds will be given. We have overt acts in favor of this, and we actually have efforts to conceal the very document that we had in this conversation by people in the White House. We have the State Department involved. We have the Justice Department involved. This is a major scandal, and hopefully by Halloween we'll figure out how to identify the articles of impeachment that correspond to this misconduct.
John Flannery, many thanks for weighing in. Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Hillary Clinton going public with her take on the impeachment